It's been weeks since I last talked about anything at all, so here I'm going to be talking about a memory, a personal experience that's been lingering in my head for quite some time. And no, this isn't something concerning or life threatening or anything dreadful and worrisome. I just felt like talking about this to get it out of my system. Unsurprisingly, it's about the time I tried to beat Deadlocked, that one official GD level, and it was a very weird experience in my opinion. Now, do note this was way before quarantine even happened. This was before staying in your own home was a necessity to stay alive, so it's been years since this happened. Back then, I was relatively new to Geometry Dash, managing to beat around 15 of the official levels, but I wasn't able to unlock even a single demon difficulty level because I wasn't aware that you needed to collect a certain amount of coins to unlock them. I thought the coins meant nothing, so I wondered what the locked levels were. How difficult were they? Why are they locked? Why do they each require an amount that is a multiple of 10? Now, fast forward to when I finally learned how to unlock those levels. That was around the same time that I was reviewing in school for a math competition I was going to enter in a few days. So I was trying to unlock Deadlocked whilst also reviewing for a math competition. But I wasn't really paying attention during the reviews. I was more focused on brute force finding the coins in certain official levels to unlock Deadlocked. The other two levels, Club Step and Theory of Everything 2, did not feel as important as Deadlocked because they required less coins. But my puny past self wasn't quite getting the gravity of the situation. That math competition was a competition between students from different schools, but I initially thought it was going to be a competition between students from within the same school. So this was some next level opposition I was facing, and yet I was more focused on collecting virtual coins in the game about avoiding spikes. These people were reviewing day and night, from the simple to the complex, and probably even while in the shower. On the day of the competition, the competitors, myself included, were all sat in the court area of some school I don't remember the name of, but we were all waiting for the speaker at the front of the court to finish his droning on about hard work and education and all that. And during his speech, I was playing GD, and I finally managed to collect 30 coins to unlock Deadlock. And once I unlocked it, I tried it, thinking it would be as simple as Club Step and Theory of Everything 2, the other two official demon difficulty levels. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I didn't heed the warnings that the level geometrical dominator was presenting. And those warnings were that Deadlocked would contain those weird Update 2.0 triggers, the new game mode called the Robot, and the teleportation mechanics. In the first few attempts, I was obliterated, being able to reach only up until the first mini wave segment. I completely underestimated the difficulty of the level. It's pretty easy for me now, but back then I wasn't used to moving objects and supersonic speed and fast clicking and all that, so it was very difficult for my past self. I got to around 50 attempts before the speaker finally finished his long and boring monologue and the competition began. Different students were led to different rooms, one room for each grade. So I and some other students that were of the same grade from different schools were led to a room where we were supposed to mentally compete with each other. I had to stop playing and put away my phone because it was time to focus on the competition. But I had two things to worry about: this math competition and beating Deadlock. Once all the students were in their rooms, we were given four pieces of paper. One that was blank, which was the scratch paper, and the other three stapled together and had the questions we needed to answer, and it was face down. So this competition wasn't like any other competition where there were four rounds, the easy, average, hard, and clincher, and you had to raise your small portable whiteboard with the answer written on it. This wasn't like that. This was an examination type competition. Sure, there's less pressure, but that also meant my opponents can double check and correct themselves. So the higher the chances I had of winning, and the higher the chances their chances of winning as well. Then the timer started, and we all flipped our papers and started answering the questions. But half my mind was focused on the questions, and the other half was on Deadlock. So it was pretty difficult for me to concentrate because I treated as if the stakes were high on both of these problems, even though I clearly needed to prioritize only one of them for the time being. At some points during that test, I was almost hallucinating, seeing icons jumping over spikes on the diagrams printed on the paper. It was a good thing that we were allowed to return to the court area once we were done, But it was also a bad thing that it was allowed because the moment they confirmed that we can go back to our court seats once we were done, I rushed the solutions and didn't check for any errors that I may have performed in my calculations. I was speed running that competition, literally around an hour left on the clock, and yet I finished the entire thing and only used half the scratch paper for writing down the solutions. Then I immediately went back to my seat in the court area and continued trying to beat Deadlocked. This isn't a joke, this isn't fabricated. I was actually trying to beat Deadlocked as if it was more important than the competition. And the entire time I was playing GD in that court, one of my friends was watching me playing and laughing and joking whenever I died on Deadlocked. And this bit was so clear in my head. On one of the attempts, I fluked the first fast wave part and the ship part right after it, and I was cheering for myself for doing it when I instantly died to the first ball part. And because of that, I almost fell off my chair. So for halfway through the entirety of the competition, plus during the preparation and review, I'd only managed to get up to around 20% on Deadlock. But I was determined. My persistence was unstoppable. The adrenaline was rushing. I told my friend I was going to beat it before the competition ends, but he knew it wasn't going to happen. He knew that despite my ability to answer some very complicated questions in mere seconds, my puny little hands would not get the timings right to complete the level. My confidence level was a little too high. It took me a few more hours to get to around 40%, which is honestly my slowest progression on any level ever, even to this day. Then came the speaker from the introduction of the event and announced that the winners of the competition have finally been evaluated for each grade level. So at this point, I realized the mistake I made. The sheer amount of tenacity I had on beating Deadlock had cost me my ranking in the competition. I was slightly panicky now, wondering if I had just embarrassed myself to my classmates and my parents by lowering my place in the competition. What was I gonna say to any inquisitive teachers that wanted to know how it went? Oh, I lost because there was this level in the game that was too hard and I couldn't concentrate on the competition. Nevertheless, I still played Deadlocked as the first few winners for the elementary grade levels were announced and I got to around 50%. Then came the announcement for the winners that were of my grade level. I wasn't hearing my name in 10th place, ninth, 8th, 7th, or 6th, so I was already thinking that I probably didn't reach the top 10. I thought I was gonna get laughed at, and it was gonna be a dramatically comical story how a mathematics enthusiast lost a math competition. But something happened that day. I pulled off one of the most unexpected flukes of my life, because when it came to third place, my name was called by the announcer. Somehow, with some reviewing, a little time, and a huge pile of luck, I managed to get into the top three, even with little to no concentration during the test. My fellow schoolmates went wild at the announcement, and my opponents from different schools were surprised. And not the excited or celebratory kind of surprise, they were livid. They glared at me, and it was as if I was gonna get assassinated or something, possibly with a ballpoint pen with a poison tip or a wooden ruler with a hidden knife compartment. Thank goodness there were teachers on guard, because if there weren't, there would probably be chairs thrown in my direction. I would have been squished by the angry students that demanded a reevaluation of the scores. To be honest, if I was one of those students, I would probably be mad too, knowing how I'd have reviewed and concentrated so hard on the competition, only to have a place lower than someone who did the entire test in only half an hour. Even more so, if I knew that they were playing a game of jumping icons and spike evasion during the competition, and at least I wasn't first or second place, because that would have probably set more than students off and caused chaos. That's how high the stakes were in this seemingly innocent math competition. But back to the main focus of the story, I wasn't able to complete Deadlock before the competition ended. I was only halfway there, so my friend took the fat W and I had proven myself wrong. And although I was congratulated by my classmates the following school day, I still didn't achieve the one goal that I had wanted to get over with, beating Deadlocked. So not only were my rivals fuming at me for getting into the top 3 with little to no effort, I was slightly mad at myself because I hadn't completed the level even after putting a considerable amount of time and concentration into the attempts. But it came around a few days later. I finally beat it somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 attempts, and that was when I was taking a dump. Yes, I was and still am one of those people who use the phone while dropping fecal bombs on the toilet, so my completion of Deadlocked happened during a number 2. So there you have it, my story of beating Deadlocked. I didn't include what happened in my attempts between the end of the competition and the dump I took, since it's extraordinarily boring, just me casually playing and failing and nothing out of the ordinary happening. But ever since the day of the competition, I had learned a very valuable lesson. Don't play Deadlock during a math competition. Ever. That's it. Goodbye.